Hey everyone. So it's been a couple days now since I shot my last video here for YouTube, and the reason has been that I started shooting some reels on Instagram, and yeah, I think in my head I was trying to have that count, and maybe it does. This is my own little adventure journey thing here, but I'm also realizing that it is going to be useful for my original intention here on this channel, which is to speak more and to share more in perhaps more of a long form content um, or format, and how we're back at it. And how the idea that I had around this was simply to go through my notes, pull out an idea, and just start talking about it. And so that's what we're going to do here today. So one of the ideas, or one of the things that I think we all recognize is the idea of intimacy. And really it's this question of, what does that mean? For me, intimacy, as we may have heard before, is into me I see, or into you that I see. So it's really the permission, it's really the invitation to invite someone into our world and to really let them see what's happening for us. And how in many ways this is inherently vulnerable, and it can be challenging. And I think for a lot of us, part of the reason why it's challenging is because it can seem like such a big idea, right? There's so much that can be happening inside us. How can we express this to someone else? And what I find really useful is to really break this down in a couple different ways. There is what I call the informational level, there's the relational level, there's the emotional level, and then there's the transpersonal, or maybe the meta level. And so, again, the idea is really what is coming from myself that I like to express, or would like to invite this person into, or this other person into, or even in this video, for example. So the first is informational, right? That's me sharing about what's happening just from almost like a data-driven point of view, right? Like, for example, I'm shooting this right now. It's in the morning. There's a bit of construction across the way. I'm wearing this kimono here today. I got my fan on. I'm drinking some tea, right? That's informational. I'm telling you what's happening, and this is a really useful skill, especially for men that I find, when I'm working with them, in regards to relationship. So we're kind of moving this a little bit into the relational level, which is, intimacy. A core piece of it is communication, right? It's this idea of if I'm not communicating, then there's really no intimacy, right? But I find so much in our relationships and the way that we interact with each other, there's a lot of assumption, and there's a lot that doesn't get said that would be really good and useful information, right? This is where the relational side of things come in. It's that question, what would be useful for this person to know, right? Or how can I help this person not have to guess what's happening for me, right? So in terms of relationship, and this may not just be romantic, but even platonic, even friendship, right? If if someone asks me to hang out with them, hey, you want to hang out on Friday, and I just say no, I could do that. But we can also feel how there's a bit of something missing, right? If there is a relationship that I like to cultivate or I like to nurture, it would be helpful and perhaps even kind to give a little more information. It's like, no, I can't hang out with you on Friday because of this and this reason, right? Or because this is happening for me right now, or it's just not something that I want to do, or whatever it is, right? But we can see how there's something that helps and supports each other's nervous systems when it comes to it's all about helping each other's nervous systems and being nice to each other, right? So if my friend asks me to hang out, and I just say no, right? Like there's so much ambiguity that can come from that, and ultimately, we could do a little bit better, I think. Right? That's simply by saying no, providing a bit of context, providing a reason perhaps. Not that we need to, right? But again, it just feels, at least for me, maybe you can experience for yourself, it just seems nicer, right? To kind of fill in the blanks for people a little bit in the ways that are easy for us to do. So that's the relational intimacy, right? It's really inviting someone in, giving them that experience, maybe filling in the blanks for them that support the relationship, right? So there isn't that doubt, there isn't that second guessing that can sometimes come up. That if we allow it happen, if we allow it to happen a couple times here and there, that's fine. But if that becomes a pattern, and there becomes a pattern of not sharing, right, and letting the person into my world as to what's happening for me, that's how relationships, even platonic or especially romantic relationships, there's more and more distance, right? There's more and more doubt. There's more and more of these spaces that my mind has to kind of fill in. And as we know what's happening in our minds sometimes, our minds can come up with all sorts of craziness, right? And so it's not always the most useful or helpful thing to come, place to come from. The next level of intimacy and communication is what I would consider emotional communication, right? The emotional level. And that's really what's happening for me on a felt level, on a sensory level. I have an article that talks about the different levels of our embodiment, which is essentially the emotional kind of experience within us. Um, and and yeah, being able to be tapped into my emotions and what's happening for me is kind of the first step. And the second step is, I guess the second step is really the question of boundaries, right? And appropriateness, trust. Is this person someone that I can trust with my emotions? And the third step is, if it is yes, or let's see how much, I'm willing to, or what feels appropriate or safe to share these kind of emotions here with this person. That third step is really to share, right? Is to talk about it, is to say, hey, like, I'm feeling this right now. To use the invitation to hang out on Friday. Hey, do you want to hang out on Friday? No, I can't. Something's coming up for me. Maybe it's directed towards that person, right? Maybe there's something interpersonal, which is kind of the next level. Um, you know, or maybe it's just something that's happening for me. No, you know what? Right now I'm feeling a bit sensitive. I'm going through something. I'm feeling a lot of XYZ right now, and I'm feeling I need to. That would help me. What would be more supportive is me to, go through that process on my own. Maybe I have a plan to hang out with Mother Nature a little bit to go through that. But again, I'm expressing a little bit more of my emotional world for this person to understand where I'm coming from, right? I'm inviting a little bit more intimacy into the experience, as opposed to, again, just saying no, or even just saying contextually, no, I'm busy, right? That's kind of the informational side of it. But now this emotional side of it, I'm giving a little bit more, right? I'm giving a little bit more of a peek into what's happening for me underneath the hood, as it were. The next couple levels here are really interpersonal, and that's kind of the relational level that we've touched on. But the last level that I like to speak to is the transpersonal level of intimacy, right? That is this is sometimes doesn't even have to be spoken to as directly, but it's really the idea that there's more happening. There's more happening than just what's happening between the two of us, right? This could even be considered the meta level of things, that definitely impact us, right? There's something that's happening to the world globally, or even something that's happening perhaps locally in a community or whatnot. These are all things that can be beneficial to communicate, right? So to kind of wrap this all the way up around, for me, the idea of intimacy, one of the main gifts of it is that it supports each other's nervous systems to not have to guess, right? To feel grounded, to feel secure. And while we are all responsible for ourselves, I think that we can also add in a bit of flavor and a bit of mutual care in how we communicate and how we engage with each other. And a lot of that is simply through the communication that we bring and how we bring it. So this is all around the idea of how the most intimate things that we can do for each other is really to provide context, nuance, and really information. And again, the different levels of emotional, relational, transpersonal information that we can share with each other, really to provide each other a bit more context and a bit more care as we are engaging in our relations to each other and to ourselves. So that's what we got for each other today. Hope this was useful, and I look forward to sharing more soon.